Hello, welcome to Rosie's Preserving School. We're going to make some jams today, some Christmas jams, and something we haven't yet done, which is to start recipes from how shall we make this rather than what is the recipe. And I've got two on offer, which is a plum and red cherry jam and also apple, pear and ginger. And I'm going to make both of them, hopefully. I just wanted to talk to you first about, last time I was doing the, as a sort of part of the evening, was doing the, amaretto. And I said to you, I'd run out of my usual almond extract and I'd managed to buy some locally, which had dismayed me. But I didn't draw attention to it at the time because I was a bit befuddled as to what was going on. But clearly, when I added the almond extract to the sugar syrup, it was just really odd. It just wouldn't mix in. But anyway, I crashed on and bottled it and behaved as though nothing had happened. But afterwards, and I said to Trevor, I'm actually going to show you this because it's another lesson. Every time you get complacent, you get a sort of kick in the teeth. So these are the bottles of amaretto I made. Now, which one is it? It's this one. I haven't done anything to. This one I have, and it looks completely normal. And I've made its little house name tag there. And if you remember, this is what I bought, which is the dear old Dr. IYKYK. And it says Moroccan almond made from real almonds. So I thought, oh, great, real almonds. It's not just even almond, essence or something. So brought it home, used it as you saw. If you look at this bottle, can you see on the top this clear bit here? And that's what was in the pan that wouldn't mix in. So I get my bottle and have a look at the label, which of course I didn't read in the shop. It says superior results since 1891. Well, I don't know whether it was snake oil or what it was, but anyway, natural almond extract for food use. Ingredients, rapeseed oil and almond extract. So what's on the top there is rapeseed oil, which has been flavoured with almond extract. So just be careful because that would mix into probably an icing sugar base type thing. But for any other kind of almond flavouring, it's absolutely hopeless. So, it smells very almondy, but clearly it wasn't the thing for the job at all. And of course, I'm just seeing what else it says. It invites me to get in touch with my comments. I don't think they'd want those. So what I had to do with this one, which looks perfectly fine now, is I had to get some kitchen roll and sort of roll it up and then keep on putting it in there to soak up the oil and take it out of the top of the bottle. Because clearly you don't want to have a drink in a glass with a nice sort of oil slick floating on the surface. What an absolute, I don't know what to call it really. So you'll be very pleased that I've now got some new almond extract from Sous Chef. That's another company I use online, and they have lots of unusual ingredients that are hard to find. Not that almond extract should be hard to find, but you know what I mean, if you want something. So I haven't yet opened it. No, that's more like it's a bit. Give it a good sniff. So I've got a nice big bottle now, And I also got this, which I'm very pleased with, which is an extract flavouring, again, all natural, for making panettone. You know, it's got that really distinctive flavour. When you know, and I read the other day, they said no self-respecting Italian would make a panettone, they just buy them. But I'm quite keen to have a go at making one. And I got the actual authentic flavouring that they use in the ones that you buy. So that was just a sort of little added bonus. So I was going to do it last year and I didn't, because I didn't have the right thing. Anyway, I'm going to start now with the plum and cherry. I've got some nice big eating plums. They are Italian. They're not, you know, I haven't got any in the freezer from the summer. So I bought these, and by some miracle, they were labelled ready to eat, and they actually are ready to eat. So that's a bonus. I thought they were going to be rock hard, but I'm just taking out the stones and just chopping them slightly so that they'll put down. And I'm going to weigh them into the pan so I know how much sugar I need for the recipe. Because if you remember, it's equal sugar to fruit for making jams. So you don't have to, we're not following, well, you're following my recipe, but we're not following a recipe. This is one that I've created. So we're not following one from a book. So we are given a starting amount of fruit. I've just bought what I want to make, and I'm going to weigh it, and I'm going to add the sugar accordingly. And that is in future the way you should go, because if you're harvesting things, whether it's hedgerow, whether it's garden, whether it's fruit farms, you need to start with the weight of your fruit. So I've got my pan here. I'm going to put it on the scales. I mean, obviously my recipe has got guidelines because I made it and tried it, and you know, you need something to work from. But when I'm creating recipes, I just start with what I've got and sort of go from there. So here's my prepped plums going in. I zeroed the weight. So there's just over half a kilo, well, nearly 600 grams, 573 grams of plums. And then I've got some cherries, my lovely dark cherries that I like, that I get from Buy Whole Foods online, which is the burgundy cherries, which already have naturally a little bit of an almondy taste to them. And I've put about 2 tablespoonfuls-ish, you know, I splashed it in other words, of the amaretto and soaked them in that. And there's a little bit still in the bottom of the jug, but that's going into the pan. And usually, as you know, I usually put it into the jar when I'm jarring up the jam, but this time it's going into the pan. So I would take the combined weight of those two, which is 740. So that is how much sugar I will need as well. Now, as these are quite dry, you know, they're not masses of juice, I'm going to put about a cupful of water just to stop them sticking to the bottom of the pan. And I'm actually going to put that into my cherry jug to rinse out the rest of the amaretto. So waste not, want not, and all that. And that's going to go on to the heat to start to cook the fruit down, and so that we can soften it. Mix them in together a bit. And I'm also going to zest and juice my lemon. I'm going to add the juice of a lemon to, you know, it sort of neutralizes the sweetness a bit, and it also helps it accept, of course, the acid. As with jams, you need fresh fruit, you need acid, you need sugar, and you need heat. And you need the right amounts of all of those. But by now you should be making a fair few of these things, and you've got much more idea of right amounts of everything. But for this smaller amount of fruit, I've got the juice and zest of 1 lemon. Again in a minute for the next one. I'll scrape the zest into the pan. Normally I do it straight into the pan, but I'll turn the heat on, of course. Juice in as well. Pick that one for my next jam. So I've also got some I've ground some allspice berries and some anise seeds in there as well to give it that kind of flavour of the licorice that was so successful in the plum sauce. So I put a little bit in. I'm not going mad with it, and I'll put that in a bit. I'll just get some heat into this, get them cooking. Now I've got some of the jam when I was trialing the recipe. I've got some here, which I will show you. Get myself a spoon. You can see it's a lovely dark jam, as you'd expect. Lots of fruit. There's a cherry, and it's fairly solid. I mean, it's not solid in as much as it's unpleasant, but it's very well set. Now, I used jam sugar. Which I was talking about the other week. And that's got added pectin, which I don't normally use, I have to say. It is expensive, or more expensive than just straight granulated. But I was nervous for 2 reasons. One, the fruit that I'm using at this time of year. If I was using my own or summer grown plums that I'd frozen, I wouldn't be quite so concerned. But these supermarket plums, you just don't know how they've been grown, how they've been hybridized. You don't know how long they've been in the supply chain. And as you know, to get good jam, you need very fresh fruit that's got high levels of pectin, or the highest that it can have for that fruit. So I was nervous on that basis, and also adding cherries, which have got sort of 0 pectin really, and also the amaretto, which again affects the set. So all in all, I thought I'm going to hedge my bets, and I'm going to use the jam sugar. I think you could probably get away with it, but I didn't want to make a Christmas jam and then give myself a whole load of problems because it hadn't set and, reboiling or using it in a way I hadn't anticipated. So I just went for it and used the jam sugar, but I think you'll be fine if you don't. So I'm going to use it again tonight, even though now I think I could just use ordinary granulated, especially as I put the lemon in and everything, but I'll go with what the recipe says. Because who knows, all of the things that I've highlighted may be the case in a future one. So turn that down a bit so it now cooks these plums down a bit. So what did I have? I said 742, I think. I'm going to put 700 grams in the jam of the sugar. I'm going to weigh it out. I'm not going to put it in just yet. Keep that to one side. Now, while that's cooking, I'm going to prep the next one because just to save time. So I'm going to have, I've got some cooking apples here and some really firm pears actually, but that's not a bad thing because they won't cook down to sort of mush. I'm going to go with like that to start with, but we'll see how we go in quantity. So it's the same thing, that over there amount till I need it. I'll put the pan onto the scales. Zero them. Use a cooking apples, and that will help the jam to set as well. The pears don't really set well on their own. They don't have a great deal of pectin naturally, not for jam making anyway. So, and actually it struck me, this is the first time I've ever made a jam with apple. Because, well, I make blackberry and apple, but I've never made a jam where the apple is the kind of prominent flavour. It just never seems to happen. It's always used as a backup to get things to set. But to make a jam in its own right, and I thought after all these years, that's the first time I've done this. So I'm going to hope this doesn't go too brown in the meantime. What I might do is put it on my other cooker hob and start it off because it won't look as nice if it's started to oxidize. So I'll get this chopped quickly. Oops. If you had a lot, if you were going to make a big recipe, then have some water with lemon juice handy to put your pieces in, just to prevent them discoloring. But I'll just get a move on, I think. What I will do is squeeze the other lemon and put the juice in and just turn it over in that just to help. Have a bit of apple. Questions? No. Lemon. Notice my next crowdfunding box is going to be all citrus again. So I'm actually going to, over Christmas, hopefully, what is laughingly termed my break, is to make some candy peel, because I haven't made any for ages. And I do love the flavour of it, both to cook with and to just eat. So getting soft, that's good. Don't worry if there's not much liquid coming out of anything, because once you put the sugar in, it all gets a lot more liquid quite quickly, so don't panic. Right, I'm going to put this juice into this pan with the apple, give it a bit of a stir, so that will help to preserve the colour. Yeah. You know, I don't want it to be all dark or anything. I haven't cut that one up. There we go. Right, so now I'm going to peel the pears. Question. Um, I'll be honest with you, Tracy. When I did the first trial, you're asking about the pears and not the pears, the cherries, soaking them in alcohol and so on. I took the ones out of the cherry brandy I was making and used those, but I used all of them. So this time round, I forgot about soaking them. So I put them in the jug I had them in yesterday and put some amaretto over them. So they've got to take their chances. So I've done it both ways. But they smell really almondy and the amaretto is going into it as well. So you know, obviously it's good to give them a bit of a couple of days or so in it, I would say, if not longer. But things happen, don't they? And you don't always remember to get ahead of it. And let's face it, if you didn't soak them in anything, it wouldn't really matter. And in the summer, of course, you could make this ahead with the summer plums, the Victorias or something, and the dark cherries, the fresh ones, because we have such a wonderful harvest of them now. They're really fabulous and huge. Another one in. Um, I'm doing, yeah, paired sort of chunks rather than slices. I'm cutting them into quarters, taking out the central core there, the membranes that run down through the pear, peeling it and then chopping what's left in. I don't cut them too small because they can cook down and you end up with a sort of pear puree, whereas I really prefer to have, something that you can identify as being pear, really. So I don't usually make jam from pears, but the apple will support them quite well. Six 600 grams there, which I'm going to stop at because otherwise it's going to take me too long to get it all sort of peeled. I'm going to put again about a cup full of water in just to stop it sticking. I'm talking about a teacup full, not American cup full. And I'm going to pop that one on our own hob just to start it, to get it going while I do this. Finish the cherry one, get rid of the peel. So I've got my sugar I weighed out. I'm going to put my spice into the sugar just to mix it evenly. You can use other spices if you've got, you know, others you prefer, of course. And that's going to go in one go and get mixed. And you know the rule. You stir it until you can't hear it or feel it. Which clearly I can do both at the moment. But you'll see also how quickly it liquefies. The juice mixes with the sugar and makes this lovely syrupy base. So get that dissolved and stirring. Smells amazing with its spices. Oh, if you don't want spices in there, you don't need to put them in at all. But I think it is quite fun at Christmas to have everything spiced to the hilt and you know. And let some heat get into that, and I'll carry on stirring it in a second. Bit little and hear it. You can still see it. There's a lot of it's up around the pan where I was a bit busy stirring. I think this dark plum and cherry would be fantastic with I'm going to try and say this now, a Christmas morning croissant, you know, with this really, you could just have a little sort of spoonful of it and just have it on the croissant warm. It would be absolutely lovely. I think Trev's mouthing, why wait till Christmas? You know, we just do it anyway. I think that could be turned down a little bit. Right, that's nearly there for dissolving. Again, if you were sort of going somewhere for Christmas, if you've been invited to stay, you could take some lovely fresh croissant and the jam as a gift. You know, even make the croissant if you're you've got time to spare in the run up to Christmas. But there's nothing like handmade ones as opposed to the kind of shop ones. But I know they're time consuming to make, but worth the effort when you do have time. So I'm stopped stirring now and I'm letting this bubble. And once it's up to its sort of rolling boil, I'll put my timer on. Now they used to put on the jam sugar packets, they used to put the method for making the jam with the jam sugar. And they don't do that anymore. You have to zap the QR code or go to the website and everything. Well, you know me, I just did what I always do, and I did a rolling boil for sort of 5 to 6 minutes, and left it at that. You know, it's you don't want to be cooking it for any longer, that's for sure. I'm just going to check the other one while that's coming up. So far, so good. Gonna get my sticky mat back because while I'm just going to put the timer on for 6 minutes on this now. And while that's cooking, the addition to the apple jam is going to be some stem ginger, one we made. You can put in as much as you like, but I'm going to put a couple of pieces just as a sort of accent flavour. Might put 3 actually. And just chop it into sort of small chunks. Ready to go in. You don't have to use a homemade one, you can use a bought one, of course. So, don't know where to put that now. I'll pop it up there for a second. I'm just checking this isn't too mad. You can see it bubbling away, rolling boil. Don't worry about the foam, we'll stir that down in a bit. Got a saucer ready. And put a little bit more water in the apple, which is weigh out my sugar for the apple, which was 600 grams. I've still got a part packet that when I did the trial, so I'll use that up rather than opening another one. You know, because it is plums, so they can hatch if you're not careful. Yeah. I've got my jars in the oven, so I'll get those in a moment. Move that out of the way. And you can see the bubbles on there, so lovely and fat and slow, which, you know, is a very good indication that we're en route to a set. You don't want everything loose, and, you know, it needs to be sort of last 30 seconds. Swap over the pans and put the apple over here. Just stir this down a minute. Keep it on the move because it's really, really hot and it can burn of the heat, because it's all concentrated by the heat mat underneath. So turn that one right down. What I'm going to do is put the sugar into this one, which is now softened, and that will cool it down and also make it more liquid without putting more liquid in. You see what I mean? It's gone straight onto the really hot hob, so it's sort of that's why it was flaring up. But you can see once it's more liquid, you can start to heat up and dissolve that sugar. So let's stick a bit on our, if I can get some on our, don't like that. No, you don't. Bit on our cool saucer. It's not freezing, it's going into the fridge, and that way you don't form lots of condensation on the saucer, which inhibits the set to see whether it's set or not. And in the meantime, just stir like mad to get rid of this foam. It just goes back into the jam It's only from the sugar and it's not sort of an impurity that you've got to ladle off into the bin. Right, leave that for a second. What do I want? Something to put my tray of jars on. An old towel there. This one is like plate spinning. This pan, that pan. Make sure the sugar's dissolved. Into jars. I'll put the ginger into here. I know sometimes I put the ginger into the jar to make sure every jar gets its quota, but really this is more about flavour. I want to get the flavour from the ginger through the jam, so I'm going to cook it together. Now I can't remember whether I put the other flavourings in at that point or yeah. So I need some nutmeg. As soon as it warms up, you can smell it. Should be enough. Nutmeg and some vanilla extract, 2 teaspoonfuls. Yes, yes, they do, Elizabeth. It all goes in together. There we are. Hmm. 6 minutes it is then. Start that one. Now I can see already in the pan this is starting to crinkle on the surface, but we'll have a look at our saucer anyway, just to prove the point. And I can see how proud it is of the saucer. You can kind of see it standing up and has got a definite edge round. So with any test, use your smallest finger so that you've got a good area that you're pushing. You don't want to be pushing like this and only see a little bit. So push with your finger and you can see there that it is going to be a lovely set. This is only an indication. You're able to tell that because you've got a thin layer cooled down quickly. And it kind of indicates what will happen in the jar. I'm just going to wash my sticky finger now. Right, funnel. A good mix of sort of plums and cherries, and fill your jars right to the top. I'll do one at the front in a second. Work from the top down, look down the funnel. If you try peering at the side of the jar, you'll pour it all over the place. So just get used to using the whatever sort of funnel you've got. Note where it comes to when the jar is filled, which is generally speaking just spilling over into the cup with this type of funnel. And we need it filled to the top so that as it cools, it shrinks, leaves a gap, which is a vacuum, and nothing can grow in a vacuum. So you shouldn't end up with moldy jam as long as you've got the right proportions of sugar and acid and all of that, and the jam has set. It should keep literally for years, should you need it to. That amount has made exactly 4 jars, which for me now is fine. I'd normally expect to make a jam recipe that is 7 or 8 jars, but you know, that's an okay quantity. Put the pan fill the hot pan and spoons and everything else straight away in hot soapy water, and you won't even have to wash it. It will all just float off. That's some more heat into that. I don't think it was quite hot enough. May cook it for another couple of minutes. Both goes together. I can't put the lids on. What liqueur? Apples and pears. Well, Calvados is an apple-based cider liqueur, isn't it? Or apple liqueur. What's the pear? Pear William liqueur, or anything kind of light. You don't want anything too overpowering because it's going to be quite a delicate flavour. Mine's a blank at the moment. I haven't put any in the apple, but that's my timer, but I may just do it for another couple of minutes because it wasn't really a rolling boil. Right. Getting a mat to put this on. Relax a bit. I've opened. It's Calvados, isn't it? Okay. Right. Feels okay. Same again. Now I think the apple's cooked right down and the pear hasn't. So the pear's still quite lumpy, which is fine. And then you can see there's just sort of very soft pieces of apple in the background um, of the jam. So I'm going to just wait and see for the set. Foam has disappeared quite quickly. So that's good. Very good. Just wait for it to cool a bit. I think this would make a lovely filling for just a plain sponge cake. You know, not flat, or maybe a lemon sponge, but just a plain one really. And then a layer of this light jam with the ginger and maybe some whipped cream as well. It would sort of go really well together and be quite refreshing, especially I think over Christmas when you know you have so much dark, heavy, you know, booze laden things. It's sort of and chocolate and things like that. It would be quite refreshing. And at other times of the year, you don't have to just keep it for Christmas, of course. I can see a kind of a skin forming on the top, a crinkly skin. So I think we're going to be okay. What I'm going to do is go ahead and put it in the jars on the basis that what I can see, and then we'll do the crinkle test in a minute. And if I'm wrong, so be it. Pardon. Which is good news. Here's another one. Yeah. So I'll do the one at the front so you can see how lumpy the pear is, which will be absolutely lovely once you're eating it in something. I think it would be quite juicy and moist. And try and even out the liquid base and the lumps, because you don't want all the lumps in one jar and nothing in the end one. Now that's slightly overfilled, that jar, but it hasn't come over the top. But I bet if I leave it a bit before I put the lid on, it will shrink back down enough not to be a problem. It's kept that lovely, lovely pale, delicate colour, which is rather attractive, I think. You don't often see jams that sort of pale. Rather nice. make an entire full jar of the last one, but I'll give it a go. It's quite a lot of lumps, so. It's not quite, but that's all right. There's been one for us to eat first. Half of one. Yes, Elizabeth. One large lemon will be fine. Yeah. Another 4 lemon, which is just lovely. My hob. And they look lovely there. You clearly see the pear in there, even without the close up. You can see them there, which is very attractive, I think. There we go. All suspended nicely, not too floaty to the top. So I think the unlike a jelly, that jam base is quite thick, so it everything stays in place quite well. So 2 Christmas jams for you to try. Experiment with your own spices and flavors, and try and build your own jam from the base up. With what fruit you have, not necessarily at Christmas. When you've got sort of less to think about. It's quite fun. And when you've done it once successfully, which isn't too hard, you just think, oh, I can do this, and I can make up whatever I want. And that's the beauty of it, and that's where all true preserving came from. It was sort of, don't throw anything out. From the harvest, we'll make something out of everything, and we'll decide what we're going to do with it and get on with it. It's that's the excitement of it, although at the time it wasn't done for excitement's sake. It was done so people had something to eat. And we need to go back to that a bit more, and save the harvest, make the most of it, buy locally, and gather locally, and not be so dependent on imported fruits and so on, or imported anything in actual fact. So, not to get too gloomy about it at Christmas, I hope you'll give at least one of them a try. And I'll see you next week when the complete polar opposite. We're going to be making some soap for our last handmade and holistic workshop of the year, and to round things off, leading up to Christmas. So I'll see you then.